So namaste, welcome. Welcome to Satsang today. And as always, Satsang is for a direct experience of what we are. And we're going to dive into that today. And really just to understand the importance of why we need to have a direct experience, because our sense of who we are as a separate being, our sense of who we think we are, is going to be controlling our actions unless we investigate, unless we really come to see what we actually are. So most human beings spend their entire existence, as I used to, and I'm sure you've experienced as well, trying to rearrange your experience, trying to get everything in your life the way you'd like it to be, trying to get the right job, the right relationship, the right friendships, everything to kind of allow us to feel some control over our existence. We all want to feel as though we have some semblance of control. And if we look at why we do that, why do we want to control everything in our existence? Why do we want to rearrange and are constantly unhappy when things are changing? It's really from the sense of security that we're looking for. Each human being is looking for certain things in their existence. I know I was looking for security. I was looking for approval, love, recognition. Seems like a different lifetime now, but there's a lot of things I was trying to get out of my relationships, and unknowingly to myself at the time I was going. And everybody I met, I was asking them to give me something inside. So if you like me, I'll feel better. If you approve of me, I'll feel safer. You know, if you make me feel safer, then I'll like you. And our egoic sense of self, our separate sense of self, is constantly fishing, isn't it? It's fishing for what it thinks we need and what it thinks we're trying to get from our experience. So most human beings never experience actually just being here in this moment, because we're all trying to get something from everyone else and everything else. And of course, there's no judgment when I say that. It's the only way that we're taught, isn't it? We only know how to do that. But at some point that becomes not enough. At some point there is a sense, or perhaps more correctly said, that starts to break down. It doesn't work. We find that we can't get people to do what we want them to do to make us feel how we want to feel. And even if we manage that, it kind of only lasts for a very short time, doesn't it? And then it all changes again, and you lose your job, or you fall out with your partner, or somebody passes away, or something happens. There's not enough money, not enough energy, not enough wellness, whatever it is that we go through in terms of karma. And really, why are we all trying to do this? Why are we all trying desperately to get what we want? We might even be doing it with satsang right now. If I come to this satsang, you know, as I did as well, if I really get this awakening thing, then I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel peaceful. And somewhere in awakening, there is this magical answer where I suddenly feel exactly how I want to feel. But is that the only way we can function? Is that the only way that we can come to our experience? And why are we doing that? Really, our actions, our relationships, everything is defined by who we think we are. So if I don't feel good enough inside, I'm going to be coming to my relationships, to my awakening, to my finances, everything with this need for approval, need for recognition, a need to feel special, to feel like somebody. And if I don't feel safe, I will gather around me as much as I can to feel safe. And I will try to stop that from changing once I've got it to look this way. But does it really work? Does that really give us lasting peace? Does that give us lasting freedom? Or perhaps we discover that everyone that we're trying to get things from is also trying to get it from us. And they're also running on empty. They're also wanting and needing from us. Is that it then? Are we kind of doomed to spend all of our existence searching outside for what we want? Even when we end up in satsang or on a meditation path or something, we can be still trying to feel better by improving ourselves inside. Why are you listening to these words right now? Are you listening because you want to find what's already true about you, or to deepen that seeing? Or are you listening because you hope you might find something that's going to make you more whole than you are now? Even this motivation, I can get something from awakening that's going to make me feel or be better than I am right now. All of this is constantly going on, this push-pull in our relationships, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our awakening, our relationship with each other, and perhaps most importantly, our relationship with the self. Of course, we are that self, but if we're sitting in these seats today listening to this, we can start with a fresh motivation. What is it that we are looking for today? Are we looking to improve ourselves? Are we a DIY project? Are you a fix-it-up thing going on inside, like you would with an old car or an old house? Or instead, we can more intelligently now turn inside to see what is already so about us. So letting go of this, trying to fix myself because I think there's something wrong with me. And my life keeps agreeing with me, of course. And instead, coming to understand what is already here. That any time that we're experiencing anything other than peace, it is simply because we are functioning from our ideas of what we think we are, where we think we are in our awakening, where we think we are in our life, where we think we are in our relationships. And we have begun to ignore what is actually here. All human beings, and I do mean all, and it was the same for me, take a snapshot of this moment. This moment is how I experience this moment now, is all there is to experience. That's the conclusion we come across, isn't it, in our pathway. If you asked any human being if there is any more to this moment to experience than they're experiencing right now, they would probably say no. But what if that very assumption that I've already got everything I can from this moment is leaving us feeling deficient in what we want and need? So peace, love, joy, clarity, wisdom, energy, vitality. And then is kind of causing us to seek it outside, to try to get what we feel deficient in our relationships and our life. What happens when we stop doing that and just experience this moment now with an openness that maybe there is a lot more here right now available that is totally free and totally continuous, ever present. It is my own self. It is your own self. So let's do that right now, just for a few moments. Let's stop assuming that we know what this moment is. All of these bodies here, sitting inside this moment, just having a curiosity, what really is this moment. Is there more? Is there depth to this moment that I haven't previously explored? What is this moment actually? This moment isn't something you can kind of point to and say, it's over there or over here. But it is here. It exists. Everything that I'm saying, everything your body's feeling is happening inside this moment, wherever you're watching or listening. Even if you're watching this 10 years after it's been said, it's still happening inside this moment. It's all right here. So we're just turning around this assumption that I have experienced everything there is to experience about this moment. What is here right now? What is reality? Could there be, in the invisible, intangible source of all of this, a wellspring of all the ways we want to feel? Could it be so full, this moment, that it's possible to completely connect with that and allow it to pour through you and out, to overflow, to spill out into your life, into your relationships, into your awakening even? What happens when you come to this moment open and unassuming, completely empty of ideas, completely devoid of assumptions? What if this one idea was robbing us of infinite peace? That this moment is exactly as I'm experiencing it right now, that that's all there is. What if that one idea is enough to close us off to infinite peace? Can you become more curious in this moment, more open to see what is here right now? And have I really explored it? And if I have, that's great, but is there more? Is there deeper? Not more as in out there trying to get more, but more internally exploration of this moment. What does that look like? What does that feel like inside you? To be open and unguarded. What if the very opposite is true, that no matter how much our body mind is filled with everything that we could desire, there's always more. It's infinite, infinite. What does that word really mean? It means that every time I'm open and unassuming, there's the capacity for me to experience even more peace. And then instead of seeking and trying to find and get and bargaining energetically in all my relationships, I become a source of peace. I begin to radiate that peace. I begin to express it. And everyone else that wants it can feel it. And it's only reminding us of what is always here. And we don't listen to our ideas. We don't listen to our assumptions about ourselves. This moment, wherever it is, whatever it is, has not changed since I began speaking. Has not changed since time began. It will never change. But there is always pouring forth from it, if we're open, infinite supply. And then when I'm open to receive this infinite supply, it begins to mirror in my life as infinite supply in all the things I need externally. It's only my inner sense of deficiency because I'm listening to my ideas about myself that is reflecting as outer not enoughness in whichever way it's showing up for each one of us. Could life then become an exploration of this moment instead of a frantic searching and seeking for what we need, what we feel we need? What is it like to come to all of your experiences full, bursting, overflowing, full and peaceful and content and happy? What is it like to be so full that anything that anyone says, positive or negative, doesn't uplift you or diminish you? What is it like when we experience ourselves and this moment without trying to change anything at all? What is that like? Can you feel it right now? Do we have to be constantly arguing with ourselves, with reality? And does this experience have to stop when we begin to move around again? Does this only work when we're in Satsang? Is this a meditation? Or is this a way of life that we are developing, a way of being? What if you became more like a sponge than something trying to grab? What if you were always open to absorb more from this moment? This moment is your essential nature. And it's called by many names, this moment, the self, awareness. And you can't see it with your eyes, you can't feel it. It seems strange that we have to become curious about something we can never know in a conventional way. But that curiosity, that openness, What does that do for your mind? What does that do for your body? What does that do for your experience right now? What is this moment? And if you like it, if it feels good, you can spend the rest of your life like this. I decided to spend the rest of my life like this. That I would always be wondering if there is more I can experience. Every single time the answer has been yes. Yes. Here's more peace. Here's more contentment. Here's more fulfillment. Here's more confidence. Here's more self-assuredness. Here's more joy. Here's more beauty. And that will go on forever. Isn't it time then that we stopped running around trying to extract things from our relationships and started plugging into the source of everything that we want when it's right here, right now and here, always available, always. Only ever seemingly blocked by our assumptions that I know what this moment is. I know. I've already experienced the self. I know what it is. I threw that idea out and I'm inviting you to do the same right now. Yourself is, this moment is a mystery that can be experienced. And can you be that person that is overflowing with fullness? Letting it pour out into your life. It will fill you up first, your body, your mind. And then it'll begin to spill out into all of your relationships. And never again will you feel deficient or that you're missing out on anything at all. It is an incredible way for a human being to live. So I'm not looking inside to try to improve. We're not trying to improve. We're honoring what's here already. There's something magnificent about you. Immense, immeasurable, infinite. And no matter how full you experience that in this moment, there is always more. It's a supply and demand thing. Could it be as simple as this then? Awakening, simply turning and looking at what's already here instead of looking outside or trying to improve inside. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you stay open. I hope you stay unassuming. So I'm going to take a moment to read through a couple of questions that have been sent in. Okay. So this one says, Dearest Helen, thank you so much for answering our questions. Your presence and your words have helped me so much in my own awakening. I was wondering if you could speak about the time on your journey where you started experiencing completely allowing thoughts and emotions at the same time, and at the same time not interfering with them or going into them. That is the perfect balance to me. To me, this is what it means to love, to surrender, where we are not listening to any voice or anything, but completely open and allowing of everything, altogether, including ourselves. What was that like? And what I'd especially like to know, how did that come about for you? Could you go into that specifically, please? Also, how did you function differently in the world and in relation to interacting with other people? Thank you very much. Well, let me start by saying it came about in a gradual way. It wasn't as if I suddenly stopped listening to thoughts in my life all at once. It'd be nice if it happened that way, but there were certain areas of my life where I could just turn away from thoughts and completely be open and unassuming, like we were just practicing now. And little by little, as I examined the thoughts in those areas, then in these other areas, they were just thoughts. They were no longer my thoughts or didn't have any meaning for me. So bit by bit, the compulsion to listen to thoughts and to push them away, to either agree with them or push them away, began to fall away. And it is love, as you said here, is love, is what would love do with the mind? How would love treat the mind? What would it be trying to push, pull all the time, like we've been speaking about? What happens when we stop doing that? And it's the experience of that, what that was like. It's utter freedom, really. It's total freedom. That your mind can say anything at all, and it has no effect. You can imagine, right, what that would be like. And maybe you just experienced it for a short while. And that any external voice can say anything at all, and it has no effect. We listen to the voice to make sure it might be telling us something useful that we can use. But we're not going to let it define how we feel, whether it's an internal voice or external. And there was a lot of peace that came with that as well, a lot of peace that has never gone. Little by little, I unplugged myself from my mind in different areas. When I think about my financial situation, when I think about my children, when I think about my awakening. And then bliss. Joy and just an immense sense of freedom. And really it's more experienced as if the world is just happening and you're just here watching. You're just enjoying this show that is life. And that show becomes more and more pleasant when you're not listening to thoughts. Some thoughts we can just turn away from. That was my experience. That's just not true. And I come back to the silence, to this moment. Other thoughts I had to really examine because they kept sticking to me like flypaper, you know. I'm sure you've experienced that. And sometimes as soon as I let go of those thoughts, they disappeared. Sometimes they hung around and just wanted to see if I would play with them for a while longer. But there is a point where, when we're practicing this openness and unassumingness that we're doing here today, where you can no longer automatically believe a thought. Even if there are thoughts, they are looked at and questioned as a habit. Is that true? Do I have to buy that? Then you're not on this up and down roller coaster that is human existence. My mind says something nice to me, I feel really good. My mind says something terrible and I feel really, really bad for a really long time. And it is surrender, as you say. The actual root meaning of the word surrender, I've probably said this before, but is to give back. To give back. If you actually look at the etymology of the word, it means to give back. Not to give, but to give back, which means to give something back that was never mine, ever. Give it back. At some point I took it on accidentally, and to give it back. So just to give back this idea that I have to reference my mind as the ultimate resource for understanding my experience. How did I function differently in the world and in relation to interacting with other people? Well, I could spend an hour talking about that, but well, let me just say I could actually function. I wasn't like paralyzed by fear, by guilt, shame, anger, and my relationships began to really blossom in a way that I didn't even know was possible. I thought I knew what love was before this, and then it showed me, actually, you don't really. Here's some more, here's some deeper. And it's a kind of a relaxed contentment of, however this moment is going is absolutely fine. It'd be nice if it went this way, but if it's going this way, it must be because life's trying to give me what I want in a different way to the way I think it's going to come. Must be going my way. There's a trust in life as well. There's an allowance for everyone exactly as they are. What is that like? Can you imagine what that's like to not need to change anyone or yourself? I tried to describe that 1,000 times and never really feel like I get it, but I hope that gives you a taste of it from your question. Lovely. So I'll go through one more. I am very interested in Advaita and love listening to your satsangs. I'm confused about something. I tend to experience a lot of fear and sometimes depression. I am finding what works for me in times of anxiety and depression is to talk to myself like I am comforting a child, my inner child. Helps to quell the stubborn belief and dread that there is something wrong with me or I am not good. To say loving things and generally work on loving myself and not being hard on myself so I feel loved. I am wondering, how will I ever come to realize I am one with everything if I am boosting my sense of self-worth or my ego? Is it not creating a sense of separate self in a way? P.S. I really appreciate your deeply calm manner of teaching. Thank you very much. So it's not the words, is it? It's not the words we're saying to ourselves. You could say negative things to yourself in your mind, couldn't you? You could say positive things to yourself. How many times a day do you criticize yourself without realizing or diminish yourself? And we can do the opposite of that. We can say kind things. It's okay that I did that same thing again. I'd rather it didn't happen next time, but it's okay that it happened. Or something. You can say kind words and we can work on loving ourselves. And it's not the words per se, because are those words really sustaining a separate sense of self? Are they really sustaining our ego? Or are they coming from the self already, those words? When was the last time your ego said anything positive about you, actually? What's the percentage of time it gives you some really good, encouraging feedback? 2%, 1%, 5%? When was the last time your mind said to you, you're doing so well. You're really doing so well. Just keep going. You're doing great. You're perfect. You're amazing. So maybe these words of love, these reassurance, these boosting your, stop being hard on yourself and loving yourself more. Is it sustaining your ego, or is it coming from the self already? Is it the voice of the self starting to break through? What would the self, the awareness, the pure silence say about you if it could? What would it say? Would it probably say something like, you're doing a great job already. You're always doing the best you can. It would say probably there's no perfect image of yourself that doesn't exist. And I would say that you're much more likely to come to realize you're one with everything when you're talking to yourself in a kinder way. If we're constantly criticizing ourselves, then we're much busier trying to fix and improve ourselves, this DIY project that is me. To actually invest any energy in recognizing what's real. So I don't think that voice is coming from ego or sustaining the separate sense of self. I think it is already the self starting to break through. It's never the words or the actions, it's where they're coming from, isn't it? It's where they're originating from inside. Are they coming from what's real? What I actually am? Or are they coming from what I think I am, who I think I am? And you can tell by how they make you feel. You can tell that, right? If you say something nice to yourself, you feel better. You're not suffering. Say something horribly unkind to yourself, you feel terrible. You feel diminished. Would love do that? Would love speak to itself that way? So I hope that helps to, I would absolutely carry on doing that. Absolutely. We have spent a lifetime being negative and criticizing ourselves. And isn't it wonderful that you've decided to turn that around? Isn't that something to celebrate? Definitely. Okay, so if anybody would like to ask a question online or a question here in the room, feel free to put your hand up and we will take some questions. Or I have plenty more here to read. Okay. Sarah, when you're ready.
Hi, Helen. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks. Are you in this kind of like permanent state, like nothing outside, nothing objective take you out of that? Yes.
Yes.
That's my question.
It's a very, very simple way to be, isn't it? It's very simple. How does that make you feel when you live like that, when you experience that?
Makes things easier.
Can you suffer like that? Can you feel bad?
No.
No.
Feel more capable. Yeah.
Just more authentic, more real, more confident maybe. And maybe that feeling is just growing incrementally each day, the more that you rest in this no thingness that you were saying.
it was there ever a shift, like how people talk to you, the way felt like they were talking to the Helen that was before,
There
and
was.
then you respond from where you are now,
Say that last bit again, sorry.
and then you respond from where you are now, like people were talking to the you before.
Most people talk to me as if I'm a separate being still, outside of satsang. You know, that's the usual way, but there was a change in the way that people spoke to me, even if they thought I was a separate being. There's the way that they interacted with me. It's very different now. It's very different now to how it was before, because it tends to be more of a reflection of that fullness inside that we were looking at, you know, that nothingness that you were saying, emptiness, that which really is love. And once you're really noticing that on a regular basis, it's very hard for people to be rude to you or mean to you, but even if they do, it just kind of like water off a duck's back. It's like, okay, that's your opinion, you know, that you're entitled to think what you like about me. It doesn't affect me. Are you noticing that starting to happen for you?
For me, it's still like I need someone else, like whether it's reading books or watch videos, I need something else like there to balance me.
Yeah.
It would be good, like you can just be like yourself, and then you can stay there.
That will just come as you stabilize more in this. At first, it kind of fills you up, your body, mind, and then there's an excess of peace, an excess of joy, and all of that. And you tend to then draw to you people who want to experience that, want to agree with that joy and that peace. And you're just as happy on your own as you are in a room full of beings. You know, you might have a preference perhaps to spend time alone, but it's not a necessity, or we don't need to be around someone to feel better or to be with someone. You're happy, whatever your life looks like, you're happy, because your happiness isn't coming from your external circumstances. If I have the right person, the right partner, the right job, the right amount of money, then I'll feel good. You know, that's how we used to live, isn't it? And now we're turning that inside out. Let me feel good first and see what that does to my life. See what that effect that has on my life.
And it's never going to happen again, like we hand over our power outwards.
You might do that every now and again, but it will feel so awful when you do it that you'll snap right back out of it. Yeah. You go, oh, I don't like that anymore. I don't want to do that. You'll immediately know when you've done that, because your body will tell you immediately, this is not truth. This is not truth right now.
Thank you.
So it's very hard to slide backwards when you get to that point, you know.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Lovely. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Patricia?
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Continuing to speak about what Sarah was speaking, just out of curiosity, your relationship with your children, with your grown-up children, that would be fun to listen to. How did it change? How
It's
as before? Thanks.
my children have been my biggest teachers, let's just say. As I'm sure a lot of parents can understand. My relationship with them before was just completely everything that I did as a parent was tinged with lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth, lack of confidence, and I had an inability to be firm when I needed to. I wanted them to like me all the time, which as a parent isn't always possible, let's just say. So
Yeah, of course.
Because of this utter need for approval that was coming out of me, please make me feel better about myself, please like me, please accept me. And now it's very different. It is that love will sometimes say no, or will be firmer when it needs to, when that's the right thing to, the best way to love in that moment, you know. And just to be able to raise teenagers and know that sometimes they're not going to like you, and it's okay, you know. And sometimes and to be able to be a parent without feeling that you've done something wrong or there's something inadequate in your parenting. Of course, I'm always open to deeper ways of loving them more and expressing that love, but it's not coming from I need to be a good parent so I can feel better about myself. It's just, what's it like to interact with this other being, knowing that I'm not really separate to them, but playing the role of the person that's responsible for them. That's a very different experience. It's an exploration, it's a discovery of what love can look like between myself and this being. And most of all, not to take it personally when they're doing teenage things, you know. That's, you're nodding there, so I'm guessing you've had the same experience. Yeah.
Yes, not to take it personally. That is so accurate. Thank you.
Even simple things like if one of them is in a mood, there may be just being able to have the realization there's maybe nothing I've done to cause that, right? It's just how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And not dragging myself through a horrible experience trying to change myself so that they feel better.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you, Helen.
Good.
Very good advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've got time for one more. Anybody else wants to ask? Or I have more questions here. Okay. I've got plenty more to go through. Okay. So this one says, when zooming out, so we've been doing this meditation, in case you haven't seen, called, we've been accessing the field, the contextual field, where we zoom out to notice the spaciousness in which everything that in the room that we're sitting in is appearing in. We call that zooming out. So when I zoom out, I notice the space, the invisible field in which my body and all of this is occurring. And our attention habitually zooms into a thought. It sort of narrows down into an object, looking at a particular thing, a thought or something. So when zooming out, I encounter two obstacles. One is that I constantly feel my head and face, which form a center of awareness. The other is that I cannot tell if I'm zooming out to only 10 feet above the roof or around the earth or out to the galaxy. There is no visual nor perceptual way to know how fully I sense or stretch out into the field. I'd be very grateful for help with these two issues. So let me start with the first one. I feel my head and face, which form a center of awareness. Well, just noticing that that's what you zoom in on, your head and your face. So I'm noticing the field, and it feels like there's something here that I keep zooming into, my body, your head and your face, as you said here. It's not an issue in itself. Then when you notice you're noticing your head or your face or some part of your body or a thought, you can simply zoom back out again. So it's never the phenomena itself, whether it's a thought or an object or a sensation in the body, that's the issue. because attention will wander to them. You can just bring it back to the spaciousness, the emptiness of being. Zoom back out again. Doesn't matter if there's a center of awareness, seemingly. Doesn't matter. Just bring your zoom back out again to take in the fullness of all of this. And if that happens again, something zooms back in and there's a seeming center of awareness, it's okay. Just zoom back out again. We're not trying to get rid of anything here in this meditation. The other is that I cannot tell if I'm zooming out to only 10 feet above the roof or around the earth or out to the galaxy. There's no visual nor perceptual way to know how fully I sense or stretch out into the field. So I'd like to suggest that you don't even need to do that. We're not trying to stretch out into the field. We're just noticing the field. So right now, you can notice that there's a space in which all of this is appearing, our bodies, this table, this laptop, or everything that's in the room that you're sitting in is happening inside a spaciousness and emptiness. How big that field is, that spaciousness, we don't really even need to worry about. Just to notice it is enough. Just to notice it is enough. So just recognizing there is something here that is the context in which all of this is appearing. And that is how big that is, I don't even need to know. So instead of focusing upon how much you stretch out into that, because that would be two things, just bringing attention back to the field. As you do that, there'll naturally become a curiosity about how big the field is, but that'll happen by itself. Does the field have any edges? So just forgetting about yourself for a moment and noticing the field in meditation. Yourself is almost just a sense of self rather as a phenomenon arising in the field. So you're working too hard here. You don't even need to do that. You don't need to do anything other than recognize the field. The answers that you're seeking will come from inside as you're connected more to the field, as you're recognizing, noticing it more. Okay, time. Let's do one more, since I'm on a roll. I am on day 18 of 30 for Satsang 227. Recognize yourself and be free. Didn't realize I'd done that many. What came up for me today is, what does looking at look like? Or what is the process? Is it really letting go of the act of looking and just waiting for seeing? As I sit here in silence with this practice, I am aware of a searching that seems like I should, yipes that word, should want to suppress. So right now there could be two types of seeing going on for you. There could be something that's searching and trying to find, as we were talking about, that egoic sense of self that's trying to find something, some definitive answer to the self. What is the self? It's trying to find an answer where it can say, okay, this is it now, I've got it, that's it, that final answer. But there's also something that is just watching for no reason at all. It's not watching with interest in the way that our mind watches with interest. It's not watching thoughts particularly. It's just watching. There's something about you already that just is watching, observing, it knows. So right now you know effortlessly where your body is. You know whether your body's comfortable or uncomfortable. You know whether it's hot or cold, hungry, tired, bored, frustrated, peaceful, content. You just know that already, don't you? There's something about you that knows that instantaneously. If you touch something hot accidentally, you would know instantaneously that that's hot. You wouldn't have to think it through. So there's some part of you that's desperately trying to search, as you said, and there's some part of you that's just watching. And that part of you that's just watching and knowing, as we were saying, is it trying to get rid of anything? Is it saying, my egoic sense of self should disappear? Is the emptiness in this room, the spaciousness of the field, is it trying to get rid of anything at all? Does it have that capacity to reject, to say this should not be? Or is it kind of openly allowing anything that appears inside it? Is the knowingness trying to change anything about your experience? Even the ego, is it trying to do that? So is it letting go of the act of looking and waiting for the seeing? Well, maybe just embracing both. The ego says, which one is it? And the self says yes to both. But my ego can be just doing its thing. At the same time, there's just something effortlessly watching. There's no need to control that. There's no need to try to get rid of anything. So I would suggest embracing both aspects of that and seeing if that gives you a clarity. Instead of looking either or. See if you can embrace both, as if you can function in two different ways already. Okay. Lovely. So we will leave it there for today. Thank you for all your questions. Namaste.